In today's lecture, we are going to see the research process. So, in research process, we are going to see the steps to do the research. First, we will see what is meant by research or definition of research. Research can be defined as the search for knowledge or as any systematic investigation with an open mind to establish novel facts, solve new or existing problems, prove new ideas, or develop new theories. So, research can be used for systematic investigation. It can be used to establish novel facts, and it is also for solving new or existing problems. Research is also for proving or investigating new ideas and for developing new theories. Research process. A research process consists of a series of actions or steps necessary or effectively carry out research and the desired sequencing of these steps. So research is a process, and every process is uh, established, or every process goes through the series of actions or steps. So we have to see what are the steps for this research. Before that, we will see the methods of research. The first method is scientific method. In scientific methods, new phenomena can be investigated or new knowledge can be acquired. In scientific method, correcting and integrating previous knowledge type research is also included. And second method is historical method. This involves techniques and guidelines by which historians use primary sources and other evidence to research and then to write history. So the second way is using historical method, in which we use primary uh, sources and some evidences and write the history. This approach may also be used in artistic project development. Now, there are two kinds of data used in the research: primary source, and this data is collected from primary sources, and secondary sources. So primary sources are the sources in which we directly interact with the peoples using surveys. We can go and observe the people. We can go for the different fields for studying the fields. So for collecting the primary data, and secondary data is collected through the journals, research papers, website, etc. Now, what are the steps for the research or the research process? So research is divided in different steps. First step is we have to define the research problem. So first step is defining a research problem. Second step is the review of literature. Third step is hypothesis formulation or formulate the hypothesis. Then the fourth step is preparing a research design, and fifth step is data collection, data analysis, and the last is interpretation and report writing. In the research process, first of all, we have to well define the problem that you want to do the research. Then second thing is review of literature. Here we have to collect the different research that previously done by other investigators or scientists and read that. Then third step, you have to formulate the hypothesis. Then you have to design your research. For doing the actual research process, you have to collect the data and you have to analyze the data. And FF stands for the feedback. If you are not getting the appropriate results, you have to again redesign the research, collect the data, analyze the data. If you are getting the fine results, you interpret the data and write the report. This FF and this FF is for the uh, feed forward, or this F is for feedback and second F is for feed forward. So this feedback is very helpful when you are doing the research. And the first step, now this step is written here in detail. There are two types of research problems: relate to the states of nature and relationship between the variables. So you can compare the variables in the research, and you can use the different states of the nature. And the steps involved in defining the problem are understanding the problem thoroughly and rephrasing the same into meaningful terms from any point of view. So you have to understand the problem that you are choosing for the research thoroughly, and you have to reframe it in the meaningful terms. Then second step is review of literature. In this step, you have to read out the manuals, records, journals, published data that can be used in your research. Literature review is the very integral part of entire research process, and it is a very essential and important step. So reviewing literature can be time consuming, doubting and frustrating, but it also rewarding because it brings clarity and focus to your research problem. When you go and read many similar type of research, you understand the problem more clearly. So clarity and focus is can be gained with this step. Then you came to know with the different methodologies for the same research, and reading the different types of research increase your knowledge, and you can contextualize your findings. The third step is formulation of hypothesis. So hypothesis is the tentative assumption made in order to draw out the test its logical or empirical consequences. So if you are doing the research, you have some idea that you can think that my research will give you me this type of result. So this is the tentative assumptions made by you. So this is called as a hypothesis in research definition. Hypothesis should be very specific and limited to the piece of research in hand, because it has to be tested, and you have to use that hypothesis for testing that you are going to the research that is meeting your tentative assumption or not. The role of hypothesis is to guide the researcher by delimiting the area of research and to keep him on the right track. The next step is preparing the research design. The function of research design is to provide the collection of relevant evidence with minimal expenditure of effort, time, and money. So, research design is the important aspect of research, because in this step we are actually going to design the prototype or model for the research. Research purpose may be grouped into the four categories: exploration, description, diagnosis, and experimentation. These can be called as the types of research. So you have to choose your research design. You are doing exploratory research, you are doing descriptive research, you are doing diagnosis research or experimental. Then the next important step is data collection. So the primary data is the actual data that you are collecting through observations, through personal interviews, through telephone interviews, by mailing questionnaires, or by scheduling meetings. So this is called as the primary data. And the next step is the data analysis. The analysis of data requires the number of closely related operations such as establishing the categories. So data analysis includes the coding. If you are doing the experimental research and you are designing any software, it takes the coding, then editing and tabulation. When you collect the data, you save that data in the tables and in the databases. So tabulation is there in any kind of research. Then you have to interpret your data with the different report. or with the help of graphical representation, you can interpret your data, you can compare your variables. So researchers have to prepare the report with that must be include the primary pages, main context of main text, and the end matter. Then conclusion is also important in your research, because it gives the idea for the next research also. If there are flaws in your research and findings in your research, that are included in the conclusion. Good quality research requires a researcher to follow scientific approach. Researcher must follow scientific method in conducting literature review, identifying research gaps, writing problem statement, and outlining research questions and research objectives. Researcher must carefully select among different research design, selection of which depends on the specific research question and overall objectives of the study. So this is all about the research process and the steps of doing the research.